Hey, it's your boy Easy, and on today's episode of Easy Opens, we're going to be taking a look at the Jada Toys Mega Man Fireman figure. It's hot. Ooh, about fell out my chair. Fireman first appeared in Mega Man 1, released on December 17th, 1987 on the Nintendo Entertainment System here in the States, and on the Famicom in Japan. Created by Dr. Light to work in an incinerator for waste management, his special weapon, the Firestorm, can melt or burn through almost anything, and this hot-blooded, charismatic, obsessed with fire and justice character does not like rainy days or the cold and has a weakness for the ice slasher. All right, so let's get this figure free from its plastic prison and see what we think about Fireman. So fresh out the box, Fireman looks really good. Looks pretty much just like the character on the screen, and what more can you ask for from an action figure based on a video game? The sculpt is really nice, it's simple, and it's very, flat, if that makes any sense, but that's due to the character design in general, so there's, it's not like a slight on it. But there is actually some details in the sculpt, but most of them are on the back. So you have some ventilation, I'm assuming, on the back of the head, as well as on the chest armor, the back of that. And then you also get some little circles with some indentations on the bottom of the feet. And then you get, for lack of a better term, ears, which has some indentations surrounding the yellow circle. And then there's the, for again, lack of a better term, I guess, ventilation shaft squares or rectangles, depending on how long they are, up at the top of the head. And all this is done very well. There's not much to it, but it's the little details that kind of bring this figure to life. The paint is really good. You get a little bit of a mixture of flat matte kind of colors in the body, especially on the silver or gray areas. And then on the armor and the feet, you have a little bit more of a glossy paint that goes to really give the character a little bit more visual dynamic in the paint area, and it to great effect. Now, mine does have a few blemishes on the legs, and that's unfortunate, but he's a machine. The machines aren't all perfect, especially if they've been in use. Now, if he was factory fresh, fresh off the assembly line, hadn't seen an honest day's work in his life, then, I'd be making a phone call up to Dr. Light and being like, yo, what's up with this? But I like to think of this Fireman as a well-seasoned, fireman, if you will. And so that doesn't really bother me too much, but it is something to mention. Also, the face on mine, I think this is just a personal thing. I don't really care for the face on mine. And that's, I think, because there's something weird with the mouth. I get that he has a mouth guard there and it's guarding his mouth, but I think I would have liked to have seen an outline around the mouth chin guard thing to kind of separate it from the face a little bit more. I don't know. There's something weird there for me. However, that being said, I do prefer the face in general because it's more like what I would have liked Mega Man's to look like, because my Mega Man figure's face seems a little too soft, I guess, in the sense of vibrancy, if you will. And this one seems to have hard lines and defined features, and it's just, I don't know, there's just something there about it that I do like, but I think the mouthpiece would have really accentuated the head sculpt for me a little bit. Fireman comes with 2 interchangeable heads, 2 interchangeable fire hands, 1 firestorm effect, and an effect stand for the firestorm. So now let's talk about the articulation you're going to get out of Fireman. So starting at the head, you get, starting at the flame, you have an option to take this out and it can rotate there. But then moving to the head, you got tons of wiggle room, tons of motion, 360, all kinds of rotation in the head. They can look up a really good distance. They can look down a surprisingly good amount of distance, I guess, is how you'd say that. I don't know. It sounds weird now for some reason. But yeah, tons of range of motion in the neck. You have 360 at the shoulder. You have up and down at the shoulder as well. This armor piece does come up, but I think it's just plugged in underneath the chest armor here. So there is some wiggle room there for that, but it does impede some of the movement, but not by much, because it can also freely, float around. You also get the bicep / elbow swivel, as well as a joint there at the elbow, which is fantastic. And then you have the optional parts that you can plug into for the hands and rotate them around as well. In the chest, you have 360 at the chest, as well as a rocker joint there, as well as in the underneath the trunks, you have that there too, and you get 360 there as well, which is fantastic. Great range of motion with the splits. You got 360 thigh swivel, which is great. You also have a knee swivel, as well as a joint in there for some added motion. And then you also have an ankle rocker. And that, I do believe, is all the articulation you're going to get out of Fireman. So here's where I would talk about their general height and weight in other media, or just their standard, what people consider to be their height and weight, but couldn't find anything. So if you know, let me know in the comments. But what I do know is that this figure stands at 4.5 inches tall and weighs 3 ounces. So now let's see how they compare to some other figures you might have in your collection. Here he is with Iceman and Mega Man from the same line of Jada Toys action figures. Here he is with the Bandai Mega Man 66 figure and the Funko Dr. Wily. Here he is with NECA's Alf and Jakks Pacific's World of Nintendo Tanuki Mario. Here he is with Hasbro's G.I. Joe Classified Crimson Bat and Barbecue. Here he is with Marvel Legends The Human Torch and Sunfire. Here he is with Figma's Kid Icarus and Jada Toys Fei Long. Here he is with SH Figuarts Kamen Rider 01 and Mattel's Masterverse Roboto. Here he is with NECA's Mirage Comics Splinter and Fugitoid. Here he is with NECA's Return to New York 4-pack Raphael and Super 7's TMNT Ultimates Donatello. Here he is with Jazzwares Flareon and SH Figuarts Ken Masters. I'm a huge fan of Mega Man. I loved the games growing up, and I loved the comics that were put out, I don't know, not that long ago. Well, maybe I say not that long ago, but it's probably about 10 years ago or so. I think Boom put it out. I could be mistaken about that. But one way or the other, they eventually had a crossover with Sonic. I don't know. It was fantastic. And one thing that it made me do is it made me really appreciate the Robot Masters. The evil Robot Masters, if you will. And I don't know. I've always appreciated the simplicity behind the naming convention of the characters in Mega Man, and Fireman is a prime example. I mean, he does fire. That's what he does. And so something about that just always fueled my imagination and got me wanting to create my own characters and stuff in my own head, and like drawing and stuff when I was a kid. And now, thankfully, Jada Toys is putting out these awesome action figures for our shelves, and I don't have to use my imagination anymore to pretend that I have a Mega Man collection again. So there's that. This figure looks and feels fantastic and is a really great addition to this already really cool line that Jada Toys has given us. And I'm really happy with this figure. I do got to say that I keep forgetting that he has the second head. And I was doing this review and I forgot that I hadn't had his angry head on in a while. And I think I actually prefer like the side-eyed look, the angry look, I guess, or aggressive look, if you want to call it, to his more docile, kind of just middle of the road look. And yeah, I think that his side-eyed look really takes the figure into a different, like, to another level for me of appreciation. And that's really cool. And I hope that Jada Toys continues to give us the 2 head sculpts for each figure, because, you know, with these figures in the lore, most of them start off as being just normal robots that are just doing a job. And then Dr. Wily is the one who corrupts them and makes them evil to give them some sort of like, some malice or whatever they need to be anti whatever they were. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I guess I'm trying to say that I like that we have two faces that represent their normal, just I'm a robot, I'm a service robot that does things to help out humanity, and then I'm an evil robot master, so I like want to just do the opposite of all that. And so I love that Jada has done that. But regardless, on both faces, I still think that the mouth chin guard thing, if that was outlined a little better, I think it would have like made this figure look a little bit better for me. But on the whole, this is great. I love the subtle gradients on all of the paint on this figure. It just really gives some visual depth to the character and some life to it that I was not expecting with this line of figures, but am now looking forward to it going forward. I just didn't know that I wanted it or needed it until they gave it to me, and now it's going to be one of those things that I'm going to look forward to in this line. I love the translucent effects. They look fantastic, and I hope we continue to get more fun things like that for each character, because that will really help to set this line apart and give it like that extra cherry on top of a line that's already doing fantastic and means of providing these characters to us, but also giving us that little bit extra. And so I really appreciate that. I do have to say, though, I think that like out of all three of the figures that were in this line, I think Fireman's probably my least favorite, but not for really any quantifiable reason that I can think of off the top of my head. It could just be visual, like the color association, or it could just be that I think that Iceman's cute because he's small. Like I don't know, but for some reason he's like out of the three. But then I don't know, I'm looking at him in the eyes right now and it seems like he doesn't want me to say this, so I don't know. But yeah, this figure just does everything you need it to do. It's got tons of articulation and it looks really cool. It goes well with this line, and I think you might be able to make it work with some other lines that you have lying around, especially any of the Nintendo lines. I think that the glossy paint might make it look a little out of place, but you might be able to make something work with lighting and whatnot, and just placement next to some other figures that may have a similar paint look to it, and so that could help, but it doesn't necessarily look too out of place among some of the Super Smash Brothers people, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, there's that, and I don't know, I don't really have much else to say, good or bad, about this figure. It's just a solid figure that looks good, feels good, plays well, and I think will go already goes great with the line that it's a part of, and I think would be a fun addition to any action figure shelf, especially one dedicated to video game characters. So that all being said, if you're an action figure collector and you're a fan of Nintendo, Mega Man, or just video games in general, and you like to have some representation on a toy shelf, then you're not going to go wrong with this line, and Fireman's going to be an excellent addition to that shelf and is an excellent addition to this line in general. If you're trying to have a Super Smash Brothers shelf, then I don't know how often Fireman appears there, but he will definitely not appear out of place on a Super Smash Brothers shelf, so there's that as well. If you, like me, are a huge Mega Man fan and always appreciate more characters from that world, then you're definitely going to want to get Fireman. And if you just happen to be also like me and a big fan of irony, especially in character names, then you're definitely going to want to pick up this action figure of Fireman. All right, well, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button. If you want to see more from me, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what evil robot master are you looking forward to next from Jada Toys, or just in general, which one is your favorite? And yeah, let me know that, and anything else you want to let me know about Mega Man. And until then, else time.